dead.
Media proudly presents...
Hey cinephiles, Dead Media here. Welcome back to Couch Kernels. Today I was thinking we could talk about wellness. In seriousness though, wellness is important whether it be physical or mental. If you're suffering in any way, there are resources available. As far as physical health, it's more obvious, but as far as mental health goes, it can be tough if you don't know there are places you can look. There are services out there like BetterHelp, but if you live in Canada, getting help for your mental health is free. And there's probably somewhere you can go to talk to someone in your town or city, or in the nearest one if you live rurally. The only way they can help you, though, is if you go see them. Nobody can help if nobody knows you're not doing well. Now, this is a somewhat dour way for me to open a video, I know. But today's movie actually has to do with physical health, and this seemed like a good time to talk about something important like this.
This means something. It's important.
Back on topic, though, today's movie is A Monster Calls. A movie which probably flew under a lot of people's radar. One of the actors in it was actually in a much bigger movie that released literally a week earlier in theaters. Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Compared to that and the hype train surrounding it on release, anything that released for probably a month after it didn't have a chance. Anyway, today's criteria are plot and writing, acting, visuals, dialogue, and the feels. Starting off, the story is about 12-year-old Connor, who's bullied at school and whose mom is really sick. Like, the bad sick. Inadvertently, Connor conjures a monster from the nearby yew tree, who Connor believes is there to help him. Every night at 12:07, which is probably where it got its title in French, which Google tells me translates to a few minutes after midnight, the monster visits Connor, but Connor is confused when the monster doesn't offer him help, but rather insists on telling him tales. He tells Connor that after 3 tales, Connor will be required to tell his tale. Connor says he doesn't know any tales, but the monster insists that if Connor tells his truth, his nightmare, that will be his tale. During all this, an exhausted Connor goes to school every day, ending each school day with a beating from his bully, then returning home to his sick mother and his strict grandmother there to help her. Connor hopes to find respite in the fact that his dad is coming to visit from the States, but his dad proves disappointing, leaving Connor even angrier than before. Yet each night, the monster calls on Connor and tells him a morality tale that seems to have an obvious ending but veers wildly from what is expected. I enjoy this story and all it does. The writing is affecting in places, and I believe it deserves a kernel. Now, who do we have and how do they do?
I tip my hat to you! I do just that! Bum, 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 bum.
Well, as Connor, we have young Louis McDougall. As his mom, the actor I mentioned earlier, who was in Rogue One a week earlier, Felicity Jones. As the grandmother, we have Sigourney Weaver. And as the monster, we have the voice of Liam Neeson. Stacked cast for a smaller release. McDougall does brilliantly as a sad yet angry boy trying to hold it together as his world falls apart around him. Jones plays well as his very sick mother, still trying to shield him from life and also help him to deal with all the emotions he's feeling in the moment. Weaver is wonderful as always, playing the seemingly stern and strict grandmother, who softens as the movie goes on, trying to deal with the illness of her daughter. And on top of that, this movie is set in England, and Weaver's accent only slips once, for 2 words. Finally, we have Neeson as the monster, providing a voice that's both soothing and powerful. I mean, by this point, he'd already been allegorical Jesus a few times, so it fits. With such impressive performances by all, I think we can give them a kernel. Now, the first thing I want to ask with the visuals is, when was the last time you saw opening credits outside of a Bond movie?
So we stuck in these opening credits.
Because this has them, and they're not unpleasant to look at either. Other notable things visually include the makeup. makeup is extremely effective, with the bags under Connor's eyes showing his exhaustion, and his mom's makeup leaving her face suitably gaunt. Monster is CG, but even though this movie was more of an independent piece, it doesn't look bad. Not perfect, of course, but not completely out of place either. And the tales Monster tells, the visuals for these are gorgeous.
Oh my God! I'm gorgeous!
I would play a video game that looked like that for no other reason than its presentation. And for these reasons, I think we can give them a kernel for visuals. Notable lines here are, well, mostly they're a bit depressing. Even out of context. At a couple of times in the movie, after he's done something bad, Connor asks whichever authority figure he's dealing with, "Aren't you going to punish me?" To which they reply, "What could possibly be the point in that?" At another point, when Connor has just heard a tale from the monster tells him, "Belief is half of all healing." Which is absolutely true, or placebos wouldn't even work as often as they do.
You know what these are? They're gazebos!
At another point, Connor asks his mom if she really believes a new treatment is going to work that she has told him would. And she replies, "I believe everything I say." Near the end, while trying to comfort Connor, his mom says to him, "I wish I had 100 years. 100 years I could give to you." Which is a beautiful sentiment to me and gets us to our magic count at 4 quotes, earning them a kernel. So, I called this next criteria the feels, because I didn't know what else to call it. But I want you guys to know this movie can be extremely hard to watch for some, especially those who have gone through the same sort of loss, but it's also not just manipulative, throwing the loss out there for cheap tears. This movie drags it out of you, having you go through the loss at a painful pace along with Connor. And it also makes sure you see the mom at several points in the movie where it could have just done a cheap reveal at the end, but I don't know that it would hit anyone the same that way. And so, for the feels, since it hits hard and crushes you a bit over time, rather than just trying to manipulate you in the end scene, I think we can give them a kernel. Now let's tip out our bucket and see what we have. We have 5 kernels again, folks. I adore this movie, but the few times I've watched it, I've been blindsided and left sobbing for the bulk of the final third of the movie, like it's targeted directly to me.
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
How it missed out on a Heartland Truly Moving Picture Award, I don't know. I have to assume that committee either didn't see it, or to them, it was more like Barney Gumbel's movie in The Simpsons.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
Anyway, let's move on to Name That Frame. This is a continuation of the round started in my Air video. So if you want another clue, look there. If you look at my screen, we have another still. And by way of a hint, I'll tell you it's a sci-fi movie from the 70s. Know what it is? Comment below. We'll be revealing the answer on the next video. And if you have any other comments, questions, or ideas, leave them down there too. I try to answer everything. That's it for me this time, guys, but I'll be back with another one soon. Bye.